Good evening and welcome to the Nerds Update, the Nerd Alert for the week ahead. It's so good to have you all on board. Got some very interesting information for you heading up, so let's get into it now. The highlights this week going to be a warmer, fine start to the week. A cold front due midweek Tuesdays. That's going to bring some colder, wet weather. And then we have the potential severe weather event at the end of next week. And let's get right into that. So the forecast is pretty easy. We'll look at the synoptic situation very soon. But I just want to get you straight into the potential severe weather event again, looming on the horizon for next weekend. And this is going to be a doozy if it comes off as forecast. And the reasons for that are, as I'll explain, are quite complicated actually, because it's not your standard East Coast low or a low or a black nor'easter or a trough. Is actually an ingredient that's going to add to a potentially wet and windy outcome for a period of time. So make my screen a bit bigger for you so you can see it a bit better. So let's go on. So if you watched my cold weather events video that I put out not long ago explaining why cold events are rare and often, we're a country of dry heat as opposed to, cold and wet and all that sort of stuff that other sort of countries tend to get a bit more variance and fluctuations about. You remember that I spoke to you about the polar vortex over Antarctica, which is a significant driver of climate, and this vortex wobbles around and throws off these cold pools. Well, this exactly is what's going to happen on coming up. So it's actually in the process now. So we'll look at the satellite picture a bit later and have a quick look if we got time. It's actually in the process now of wobbling around, and there's a seriously cold pool of air detaching from that vortex and heading for Australia. So this here is the upper cold temperatures. So you can see here, obviously, the purples and the pinky colors are very cold, and you can see that air mass already down. So this is a model outtake. I'm going to show you what's going to happen, and then I'll walk you through. So this is the, starting from today, you can see, as I said, it's starting to bubble away, and you can see how it has that sort of arc to it, and then there's that little fingers that come off the sort of northwestern side of it, and you can see it get flung up towards Australia, and that's part of the process which develops an ECL, or East Coast low, or a cutter flow, which can be just as strong and nasty as an East Coast low, which is sort of what the last event was, attached to the black nor'easter, which is the trough, and conversely it also can form a trough. But what it does is it actually massively destabilizes the air because it automatically creates that temperature differential between upper air and lower air, as I talked to you about, which obviously induces and creates air to rise and rise a lot more quickly, and away we go. So you can see that cold air now, that is that blue and green shading, has now gone through New South Wales, and it's now off the coast, and that's and that is the driver of what's going to initiate all this activity. What exactly it turns out to be, I guess we'll have to wait for the usual ebbs and flows of the models. But I've been hinting now in my forecast. I haven't said anything specifically because, these events are a few days out. We need to make sure we're locked in. We don't want to unnecessarily panic people or put stress or anxiety up on people, which is why I always resist in just posting one picture of a model rainfall output and going, oh my God, there's 500 mils coming. That's not the best thing to be saying to people. What we should be explaining to people is actually giving them the information, absolutely, not hiding it, don't believe that at all, but also explaining the features behind it, because there's going to be some variances and some nuances about this system. But generally speaking, the pattern, the synoptic pattern that's going to be present in this system, if it happens to be as forecast, will sustain quite a long event, not like a short East Coast low, which is why I'm very reluctantly, and I'm very deliberately not calling it East Coast low, even though it will be a low of sorts, as you'll see very soon. It is not the classic East Coast low, and it's not a classic Tasman low. It's going to be some sort of weird hybrid, driven by cold air, but also not racing off to the southeast like we normally see. Thanks to those who are popping in. It's great to see you all. Thank you so much. So Darren and Michael and Brody, welcome, and I'll answer your questions very soon. I'll just get through this information and we can go straight to your questions. So please, again, feel free to put your questions in the chat. The chat's been tagged. It's away. And we'll get on with this. Okay, so this is the cold air. Now, looking ahead, the next part of this. So, as I said, what it's going to do is it's going to fire up this low over the northeastern New South Wales on the Tasman Sea, very close to the coast, and it's going to create a condition where there's going to be this low develop for a period of time and hang there and direct very strong, squally rain onto us and strong winds onto us. So we can see again, this is now the mid-levels of the atmosphere. So this is not the atmosphere. The other before was about 5-6 kilometers up, which is driving the process. But you can even see here now, which is about 3 kilometers up, which is where a lot of the activity will happen. You can see the and you can see again, as we're approaching the weekend, it says the day is actually already going to take place, which is why I wanted to get something out today, because this is not something that's going to pop up on us and it seems like it appears, just randomly. It's not random. The systems in process for this are already underway. So there is already mass high in the Southern Ocean, which I've been telling you about for days now, which is setting up. There is already the Arctic vortex, or polar vortex, has already thrown off the big blob of cold air, which is rapidly approaching us as we speak. And it's due to arrive in the southeast or southern coast tomorrow, Tuesday, and we'll see how it plays out from there. But for us, the key dates are looking to the Thursday, Friday, when we see how the atmosphere responds in central New South Wales, and then going from that will be Saturday onwards is when the main activity will commence, and will be sort of late Friday, early Saturday, sometime. Obviously, timing is going to fluctuate, so I'm not going to give you specifics right now because that would be irresponsible. I'm just saying this is a heads up, it is coming. And we'll get to your questions, so please don't think I'm ignoring them. I want to get through my information first because there's a lot to cover and I don't want to miss any of this stuff, just so you're all grounded so we can get this done. Because obviously during weekdays, all of us are going to have a little bit less time to be able to focus on all this stuff. So I want to make sure we get some foundation work done for you now so you can just see exactly what's going on. Coming up now, so that's now this is the jet stream, and this is obviously a very major play in these events, and what helps them be long lasting and also very strong, because it actually gets rid of the dead dry air. So this is the current jet stream. You can see it ripping through Central Australia, which is quite usual for this time of year when as I said, the transition between the Hadley cell and the Ferrel cell, which is the atmospheric engine, if you want to speak, that distributes the heat and cold across the earth. And you can see here the cold front and the change coming through. This is tomorrow. You can see that band of red, which is very strong, a cold or jet stream associated with that. And then you'll notice this is where it gets interesting, and this is where I'll talk about why this is an interesting system. So you see very broad air of very strong jet stream, and that's massive. Like, that's a massive amount of jet stream in the upper air. That is reacting to that extremely cold air. So remember, what cold air does is it sucks air up because it changes the differential between the surface and upstairs. So automatically, of course, air has to rush in to replace it. And of course, then the upper systems have to get rid of it. Now, this is what is the very interesting thing about this, and potentially the thing which is why I've come early and letting you know early. This jet stream here will be very efficient in getting rid of all the stuff and sucking air up from the surface. So it's actually reinforcing and enhancing that cold air pool. And we skip on now. We're getting up now to Wednesday, so you can see the start of May, and you can see just how that jet stream, and it's not going away, and you can see how it's actually getting stronger just off the coast, just to the north of where the cold pool is. And you can see that cold pool responding in the upper levels now. So you can see this here, that low pressure system, reasonable low pressure system, moving through northwest New South Wales Friday. That's what I was saying before in the timing. We're looking at about Thursday, Friday, to see exactly how the atmosphere responds to that. But look at the jet stream. It's up to 140 knots now to the north of this, which is something that always indicative of a very strong surface low about to form. What if that's a Tasman low or an East Coast low? It's really not quite locked in, or it's a hybrid system is the best I can call it. Because when I show you exactly how it reacts, you'll see very quickly when I walk you through it. But you can see there that extremely strong jet stream, extremely strong. And that is reinforcing that cold pool and that low. So that's going to be sucking air up. And you can see here now, and don't forget there's, so the wind streams are the lower surface air, and then the colors are the upper air. You can see it goes off the coast. And this is Monday now, and it's still there, and it's still going, and there's extremely strong jet stream to the north of it. So like, we're not talking about like an ECL, which is like, maybe 24, 48 hours at most, and they raced off to the southeast and clear. This thing is hanging around for days if the forecast comes off, and I'm going to keep stressing that. So there's no need to slip into anxiety mode just yet. This is a heads up, but you've got to be prepared. This event could be from Saturday through to Wednesday, at least next week. And you're talking about consistent, steady, moderate rainfall. You're not going to have that, life-threatening rainfall that we had with the Black Nor'easter, because it was a different process. But this is steady, moderate, over many days rainfall. And you can imagine what that does to catchments. It's not going to flash flood. It's going to steadily and rapidly accumulate. And when you talk about Warragamba, which is already still full, there's very little room for any extra inflows, which is why, this is a very interesting / possibly severe event. Again, it's not locked in. Don't get stressed about it just yet. I will keep you updated every as much as I can, so you can make the decisions as I did last time. So this is like, we're now into Monday, Tuesday next week, and that low is still there. And interestingly, it retrograded. In that last picture, it actually retrograded, which is it pushed back to the coast. So that's Sunday. We'll go back to, this is where it gets a bit funny with videos, and just try and sketch on with you. There. Perfect. There we go. So you can see Tuesday there, it's actually coming back towards the coast at one stage, and then redirects, more. And in the meantime, a complicating factor, so I don't know if you noticed it, I'll go back to quickly the temperatures, is just watch the bottom coast near Tasmania. So here comes the cold pool, you can see that nice arc in it, which is clearly a low's developing. And then you watch here. See just southeast Tasmania, sorry. Watch what that does. A little independent cold pool then comes up to the south of the system. So it actually then reinforces the cold air to its north, because obviously the way, the lows circulate, that spins, it's then flowing up into the low, which is above it, which is also capturing it. It's almost like a Fujiwara effect. And if you know anything about cyclones, a Fujiwara is where two lows, it's a Japanese scientist developed this theory where two lows, get very close to each other, they form close to each other, they interact and they feed off each other. So be watching that part very closely. All right, let's get on to this next part so I can answer your questions. So here is the accumulated rainfall for the next week. We'll just see here. We'll get it going. Come on, Mr. Unfortunately, here we go. Oh, I'm going to speed up for you because this is a bit slow. When models do this stuff. So we're going to do here. So this is starting today, obviously. And then Monday, Tuesday, when that cold front comes around, you can see there's some, stuff. So Wednesday, Tuesday night, we can see it's starting to get some decent falls already on the coast, and that's just from the cold front coming through. There's nothing to do with the low. You can see Wednesday, we're already starting to get some accumulated falls, and we haven't got into the low. Not even telling the low yet. It's still inland, and it's actually reinforcing the cold front. And you can see just, and I can push play now because it'll start accumulating. We're up to Friday, and we're already looking at close to 100 mils. And then it'll skip on, because then as the models get through the outlook period, they get, obviously, the resolution goes to 6 hourly, whatever it is. We're now on to May. So since when the rain sort of started, Tuesday, Wednesday this week, by this time next week, that color shading you can see there is between 200 to 400 millimeters already. And that light gray off the coast is 500 millimeters. And this is Tuesday night. So when the low is still going to be pumping around and coming back towards the coast. And this is why, like, I'll give it to you straight. I'm not going to put one little graph on there, a long little picture and say, oh, 500 mils and like worry the heck out of everybody. But I'll go back to it. You can just see there's not one single day with massive falls. You can see it just steadily accumulates over the time as we go. And I'll go back and forward again. And of course, the Blue Mountains, big catchment areas, you know, and again, the back of the Illawarra Escarpment catchment areas. And you can see all the places are getting, I'll go back and just pause. You know, that's 400 mils, that green shading. This is 200 to 300, you know, mils at least. And that's sort of in the catchment when it's already full, chock-a-block. And there's not been a lot of evaporation, obviously, because we're now starting to move into our cool season. Yeah. This is if it comes off. Don't stress. GFS is actually worse, and I'll share what GFS shows very shortly. So that was the EC, and I'm sticking with EC because we know it this time. So this is a quick high-level view for you. This is the, you know, what's going to happen. So we can see, and this is the process I'm talking about. This is why I need to have this for you, so you can see two highs, one over here to the east of New Zealand, and then we've got this massive one I've been talking about in the Southern Ocean. So you can see automatically they're different locations. Our one's been a lot higher, which is quite typical for a cold season. This one here is quite typical for more like a warm season. And so what it's doing is you can see it's dragging up air from well south because it's, you know, in the 40s. So it's blocking the dry west as well. And air up here. So you can see that below even forms. There's just this trough which is left over by the colder air from the cold front, and then this trough forms because the cold air is still inland New South Wales moving towards the coast. So it's actually creating almost like a black northeaster, but it's not going to be like that, because then what happens as we watch, it actually then acts a bit like a true east coast low. And you can see here, bang, bombs off the coast, northwest coast on Sunday morning sometime, and then we're up to now Monday, and you can see it drops off a bit. You think, oh yeah, it's going to be okay. It's not going to, it's, you know, it's going to calm down a bit. And then by Tuesday, it pushes back towards the coast, and you can see again, activity is focused between Newcastle and basically the south coast. And this will be a Newcastle and south event mainly. There will be some heavier stuff from the mid-north and the north coast initially when the stuff, pretty more storms, I'd say, and pretty severe storms because of just how cold the air is. But really the focus is going to be here. Now, what I want to quickly do is turn to, because I'm conscious of the time, I want to get to your questions. We'll skip on to that. So we can see that that is the trough. That's the cold air and the atmosphere responding to that air. And you can see as it pushes towards, gets off the coast, off the northeast coast, the mid-north coast or the far north coast. And you can see the little circulation just there. If I can pause, you can see there. That's a true ECL. That's how an ECL starts. It's rapid cyclogenesis, or they call it bombogenesis, which is where rapid explosive convection causes, you know, this little low to form because obviously the Coriolis effect and the winds flowing into it. Get this little thing spins up. It's like, you know, those little eddies you see at the beach sometimes. They're swirling around, you know, like a whirlpool, that sort of stuff. That's essentially what an East Coast low is. Starts off like that and then develops into something a lot more, and a lot more broad spread, and probably more like a Tasman low. And the exacerbating factor of this one, and I'll skip ahead to it, so I can show you. So look at the broad synoptic pattern here. Where's the high? It's still in the south. So what it's doing is, it's stopping that low moving away to the south and southeast like it normally does. You've got the jet stream active on the north of it. So it's dragging all the dead air away from it. And so it keeps this system just pumping away, and like keeps the engine going very clean and efficient because there's no dry air to slow down the system. Yeah, the air above will warm, which will in some ways slow the system down. But because it's over the warm Tasman, that counteracts that. So even though the air above might, you know, cool by 2 or 3 degrees, it's now over warmer sea surface temperatures, which are like mid 20s, early 20s. So it doesn't matter because that the warmer air upstairs, or that little bit of warming, is counteracted by the very soupy warm waters of the Tasman Sea. And then this high pressure acts like a big cradle and just sits there for days. You can see as it slowly creeps to the east. You can even see on Monday, it's just cradling it. And of course, the low can't go anywhere other than back towards the coast a little bit, because that's what the high is doing, and it bumps it back. And then it's pushing this ridge up here behind it, which is still cradling it. So you can see the pressure here, still very strong. 1,024 to 1,020 on the western side. So the low's got nowhere to go. So it's just going to sit there and continue to pump over us until the high breaks down. And at this stage, we don't know when it's going to be, because the model run's finished. We don't have anything past Tuesday night, and the low's still there, and the low is still pumping over us, as you can see. Up next, hopefully, will be some winds for you can see. So it won't be as savage a wind as you will see with an East Coast low, because you get, hurricane force plus winds with that. It will be just consistent, gusty to strong to, gale force, southeasterlies or easterlies. And like you're looking here Saturday, so I've skipped ahead for you, and you can just see Saturday just pumping those easterlies again over us. And then you can see the, Sunday is when the low really winds up. It actually does Saturday night, so I've skipped ahead because otherwise it just takes so long for them to look through each individual frame. Unfortunately, you can see it's quite a lot of there's no field in Blackley than that is, maybe a little bit north, just pummeled, strong winds, and Cull and Jervis Bay with gale winds for days, not just days. Like you see, we're now into Monday afternoon, and it's still on. Like it's Saturday. So we're 8 hours plus, and there's an extremely strong tide, which I heard is falling under the latitude like a move. And it stretches back to the south, since we're thinking about retrograding. We're now Tuesday, and look how the lows got back close to the coast, and the mid-north coast now will get a period of gales and some rain and winds as well. On Tuesday, during the day, and it's not going anywhere quick. You can see there, it starts to, you think, oh yeah, maybe it starts to move away. That's just a bit of the diurnal influence, which is the nighttime stuff. And again, bang, still that rain stream, that rain train over us. Like it's like an atmosphere, like the Americans call it river, but that's normally upstairs. Well, this is downstairs, because look where the fetch these winds are coming from. They're coming out almost from Tonga, like way deep out in the central Pacific almost. So you can think about that. It's just acting like this big scoop, and then as it gets to the coast over us, it's being squeezed by this low, and the water has nowhere to go other than over the coast between, as I said, sort of Port Stephens south to about Jervis Bay, and the south coast will probably get some to it as well. So that's where we're at with that. Best I can explain it. So what I'm going to do now is I'll get through to your questions, and I'll answer many of those as I can for you. So let's go. Is the basin going to get pumped again? On this forecast, yes, but I try and avoid hyperbole, because that just is looking for clickbaits, I'm going to say. But on that forecast, the way those models are, and I will quickly bring up the other models so you can see as well. So it's not just focusing on one. I'll go and show you the GFS, because that should have updated by now. So just bear with me while I pull up Windy. That should be probably up on your screens any second. So this is the EC. Hopefully it's there for you. Has it not pulled up? Oh, my sound has gone. Am I back now? I should be back now. I think it's because I changed Windows. I need to just change, but that's all right. I can figure that out. I'm going to quickly open Windy for you on here, just because it's easier if I do it on here. Hopefully you can still see me. And please let me know if you can still hear me or not. It's because I just went out of the thing. I'm sorry about that. Because I'm trying to use, oh, by the way, I meant to let you know, I've got new streaming software that's more native to the Mac that I use, and you can hear the sound obviously a lot better because it's not using the streaming microphone to pick up not only my voice but also the sound from the speakers, thank God. So, well, let's have a quick look at the rain accumulation quickly, as I sort of promised you. Okay, so let me get out of here. So this is, we'll look at ESC. So this is actually due to update very soon, so this might be. So, I mean, look, remember last time we saw where those pinks were? Um, we can see here, I mean, there's 275 mils in the west there. You go out here towards the coast, you're looking 337 mils up to 400 mils in some places, 360 there, um, up into the Katoomba 260s, getting close to 300s up there. I mean, we know how last time how close the stuff was, and it was reasonable, but it wasn't too bad. But don't forget, this is 10 days out too, so this doesn't take anything from Tuesday onwards. So this is starting from today. So it picks up the Tuesday, Wednesdays, and Thursdays, and Friday falls, which really aren't associated with this event. We'll look at GFS now. It's back down a bit in its run. I think must be the 0Z run. But you can still see there's some pretty big falls across that. And more worryingly, it's focused more up in the catchments area. And GFS, don't forget, is not very high resolution as much as the EC is. It's 22K, where EC is 9K, so 300 something plus. I'll try Access. Access is a bit of a laugh because you can see this is the concern you got. So it's definitely the Bureau is going for, massive falls on the coast, which won't worry anything. It won't be any stream rises. It'll just be an inconvenience more than anything else. But this is just laughable when you've got two other main models, seriously going out in that, and this is just not even in the ballpark. Now, I'm just wondering, that might be, the old run. So I'll just double check for you because I think there might be 18Z. So I'm expecting that the 0Z mine or the 11 o'clock run from this morning will change that. What am I doing? Where are we going? Let me get out of that. I'm going the wrong one. Sorry. No, that is the right one. Why is that not coming up? It should be telling me on the bottom here what the model run is. Interesting. Okay, well, we'll just see if it tells us on here. No, it does not. Might be on the info. No, we get on info. Alright, so GFS was updated 2 hours ago, so it's only 18Z. So again, here we go. So the Bureau is due to update any second now. So we'll have a look at that for you a bit later, and there's some major changes. I will put some stuff in this tonight, but it's still days away, so there's no urgency about it yet. And you see EC's due to update as well, so I'm expecting that there'll be, given what GFS is flagging, there's probably going to be some changes, probably upgrades inland a bit more, unfortunately. Right, so let's have a look at some of your questions now, and I'll get to those because I'm looking at the time and I'm not going to spend too long because it is Sunday night. All right. I am well, thank you, Michael, and great to have you on, and I hope you're well as well. Brody, yes, it will affect the Nepean Hawksman, as I just showed you, quite, I'm not going to say major floods at all until we get a lot more through this week, first of all. So let's not focus on outcome yet. Let's just focus on causation. And then when we get causation now locked in, we then can get what the outcomes are going to be. Is it going to be better than the last one? I'm not sure what that means in terms of what. If you're a severe weather sort of freak, Jared, then it's not going to be that dramatic as in an ECL type stuff. This is days and days and days of wet, gusty, wild weather is what this will be. G'day, Narelle and Amanda. You're welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. Sean, welcome. Nathan, g'day and welcome. How much do I think around the Windsor where I gamble? I think I just showed you that, and dates. I just think I just showed you that as well. Hopefully you're listening. But I said predominantly the main rain will be from Saturday onwards, although there will be some good rains this week, especially Tuesday onwards. Although at this stage, Tuesday, so Wednesday looks more coastal, and then it does look to push in a bit more on Thursday, Fridays towards the west. Don't get confused. That's not this event. It's a different event. It's the cold front, but it's the cold pull to the west enhancing that stuff. So you can see this is, that'll give me a much better idea of what's going to come next, how I see it interact with the cold front. Thanks so much for joining, Wayne. We love having you as well. It's great to be on. We are due for a huge East Coast low, so it may not be an ECL. This might be not even a Tasman low, because we know that Tasman lows normally race off. This is going to be a unique hybrid type thing. I mean, I think technically correct, it's a Tasman low because it's a low and it's in the Tasman Sea. It's definitely not an East Coast low. So if anybody is saying about East Coast lows, they are not correct, which is one of the reasons why I resist in posting just one picture and saying, oh my God, 500 mils from an ECL. That is disingenuous. It doesn't help anybody. You can see quite clearly this is not an East Coast low because there is very strict definitions about an East Coast low. It must be within like 50 k's of the coastline and it must form under a certain. This is very similar conditions, I must say. This has got an upper cold pool or an upper trough, deepening. It gets cut off from the flow to the south. And then cyclogenesis happens, or, it turns into a low. You get the spinning because of the Coriolis effect, and then it gets stuck. This is pretty more effectively what you call a cutoff low, but it's very, very rare to get a cutoff low in the Tasman. They're normally overland. So this is why, what do we call this? It's not an East Coast low. It's not a Tasman low. It's definitely a cutoff low because it's cut off from the polar air to the south, which I showed you at the start, and it's been cradled by the high and it's been blocked and there's an active jet stream, so it ticks all those boxes. It's over the Tasman, which is where the aggravating factor about this whole forecast at this stage comes in, because it's literally on a top of a massive pile of fuel for those redheads. So it's not even just fuel, it's like high octane stuff. It's like 98 or 99 or rocket fuel or whatever ethanol you put in those, in those tanks and cars and make them go faster for bits. This is literally what the aggravating factor about on this forecast alone. Of course, this is going to change about how that cold pool times, how it all interacts. So on this forecast at all, it's definitely looking to be an interesting event. The Hunter is purple and blue. How many mils does that equate to? As I said, Janelle, anywhere south of sort of Port Stephens can be between 200 and 400 mils at this stage. It will depend about just how far that wind pushes inland, how close the low is to the coast, all that sort of stuff. So I'm not going to lock in dates and figures. All I can say is what the models are flagging at this stage. Last event, it was pretty clear. EC was very close on 7 days out. And that's why I'm giving you a heads up now, because EC was not far off. If we remember, I showed you all that stuff on my updates. It was pretty close. More close. Oh yeah, there's always going to be isolated falls. Not Brody, not so much in these events, because this is more a stratiform event. This is like literally a river, an atmospheric river, and that is just consistent moderate falls. When you get an ECL or a trough, then yes, you will get more isolated falls, because within that broader broader area is this embedded storms like we had last time, and you'll get heavier falls from that stuff. This won't have that as much. The air has been squeezed, and so it's not a convective event. It's more I'm forgetting, sorry, forgot the word, starts with A, my brain's not working, but it's more an event where air has just been squeezed and everything in that air has just been squeezed out of it. It's completely different to a convective event. It starts off as a convective event, but as it moves out of the ocean, which is why I'm saying to you, this is a really rare event. Like, this comes off, you're witnessing something we haven't seen for a long, long time. A cutoff low over the Tasman. Unusual. Do you cancel your family trip for the weekend in Sydney? Amy, I would not at this stage. I will have a better idea probably Tuesday night, Wednesday for you about that. But at this stage, I would say I'm not telling anybody to do anything out of it. Just be prepared, because we've seen how things flick back and forward. But this is why this event's a bit different. This is a broad scale event. It's not a very nuanced, very local event. It's nuanced on the basis that wherever this atmospheric river plonks itself, which is going to invariably south of Port Stephens because the way the systems is, and the way that the high pressure systems are, they will get this. Whereas ECLs is very much where the ECL is close to the ECL. That's it. Charity event at Northbridge, Sydney this Saturday for Rotary includes fireworks, but would be postponed. I would say not at this stage. Let's wait and see. Be close to Tuesday night, Wednesday. I'll definitely have a better idea for you then. If that's enough time for you to do or postpone, I hope that is for you. Because I would hate for you to go to all that work and then just 50 kilometres north, we get nothing. Let's go. Any other comments, questions, quickly before I hop off, because I did promise it would be 5:30, and I'm not going to take much more time about this because I want to be really succinct with that. So just a quick recap. Fine and warm for the next couple of days. Looking 24 to 26. Tuesday, the cold front will arrive. And at this stage, I will have a quick look for you. We'll get out of there, and I'll double check and see what time we're looking at the cold front to arrive on Tuesday. It's going to come early morning, so pretty Monday overnight, and overnight Monday to Tuesday. You can see it, and it's going to be quite gusty as it is, so it's not like it's going to be a regular event, and it's going to be helped by that cold air inland as it approaches, but it's not going to be cold. It'll be feel cold though, 18 in 19, 20 in the west, but it'll feel probably like 13 and 14, so it will be chilly. And then there's even storms flagged on Wednesday. That's just how unstable the atmosphere is going to be because of that cold air. And then I'll show you. See, for the afternoon some rain. See up there. Today's when you take it. You can see 6,000 that's 40. It's Saturday, 2040. Sunday, as a estimation, it's not range on one. It's this number, 50. And you can see like on the thing, like for everything, you shoot an 80 and so the news we'll see. But I said updates about something that's measure itself. I'll look at that as things. Yes, what seems will get very depending on just I'm not sure. It depends on what the system will be. But yeah, at this stage, it looks like Port Stephens and South will be in the firing line. All right, well, I'm going to hop off because I see there's no more questions at this stage. I can see I've double checked. I've got everybody's message at this stage, which is great. As again, you can still stick your questions on the page and I'll answer them as I get to them. Otherwise, thanks so much for those people who did pop in for the first of our updates. Obviously, this is going to get pretty hectic this week. And especially if the models persists and with this event, the way EC has it at the moment, I will definitely be updating you as much as I can, and we'll make sure you get the best information so you can make arrangements, especially for those people in flood impacted areas. And look, it's not going to flood Saturday or Sunday, so don't start stressing. If it does flood, and that's a huge if, there's no locked in guarantees. You're not looking till Monday, Tuesday next week, maybe Sunday night. Just depends how quickly the streams react to the falls. As I said, it's an accumulation event. It's not a heavy torrential, oh my God, life-threatening flash flooding event. It's one of those events where it will just continually pump up, and then we'll get to a point where everything's full, and then wherever it falls after that, that's when you start looking at flash flooding, rapid responses to rainfall, which is, late in the weekend, early next week. Andrew Wakely. So some areas from Wednesday to Wednesday you might expect cumulative 300 mils, probably more, Andrew, probably 400 mils if, it comes off. We don't even have models out for Wednesday yet. So Tuesday, the models finished at like 7 o'clock at night, and then we're, possibly up to 400 mils in some areas already. But that's just one run now. And that's the 12Z2. So like I didn't use the 18Z. I specifically avoided that because we know, as I explained to you a number of times, it doesn't include up-to-date data. It's just a rehash of the morning's runs with a bit of extra data from the airlines. So yeah, hopefully not. Homeone's not. Are you also getting sound problems? Maybe only you, Rachel. I hope not. But anyway, all right. I'm going to say adios. Stick your questions in there. I still will get to them, so I don't think I've ignored you. Otherwise, I did promise this only be 30 minutes. I'm going a bit over time as usual because I just don't stop yabbering. But I'm out of here. Thank you so much for your time. Please stay tuned because there's going to be plenty of updates for you this week, and there will be plenty of lives this week. I think if this looks like it's locked in, I'll definitely keep you up to date every day with a live to give you the latest and greatest so you can make decisions that are best for you and your family. But again, thank you so much for being part of it. I really appreciate it, and have a great Sunday night.